All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Monday, November 18th. So let's see, how did we finish for the day? Slightly positive for the day for SPY, up just 7 basis points. Q's finished up right about the same 8 basis points. IWM was a laggard on the day, so lagging down 25 basis points, so down a quarter of a percentage point. The DIA outperformed just a touch, that was up 12 basis points. And what was the other one that I was looking at? And mid caps were also slightly down on the day. So kind of some mixed, some mixed numbers that came across today. And I have in front of you market breadth, right? So I thought this was interesting for the S&P. Basically, decliners just by one outgained. But look at the Nasdaq. Nasdaq breadth really declined today, and that's something that we've been seeing for the last couple days. So I'll talk about as I get through the video, just basically what I did today in terms of trading. But yeah, a little bit different. 4-week highs still increasing. Again, interesting, more 52-week lows for the Nasdaq today. Doesn't look like we got any here on the S&P and Dow Jones in terms of 52 percentage week lows. So that's not bad. So let's talk a little bit about today's price action. Also within, if we go through and if we look at, so I like to kind of do this like it's kind of a cross section, in terms of what gained throughout the day. The VIX was the big thing that gained throughout the day. There really wasn't much. You could see, like I said, the small caps were the one that kind of outperformed through the session, but very minorly, right? Qs outperformed a touch. Gold, silver, you could see for gold miners, they finished up just about 1.4% on the day. They had some strength to it. We talked a little bit about the gold miners in the weekend member video, but it's kind of funny some of the areas that outperformed today, right? So one of the first things that we saw this morning pre-open was a negative trade headline, which didn't really push the markets that much to the downside, but you kind of saw some of the areas that a few months ago, right when the trade war was, definitely heightened, much more than it is today. Some of these areas outperformed again. So, consumer staples, home builders, REITs. I don't have software in here, but select software did really good today. The FANG ETF did pretty good today, did pretty well as well. So there was some momentum in areas today, and I thought that was interesting. And then on the negative side, of course, oil and gas continues to get smoked, down almost 3% on the, or these were down 3% for the day. Chinese internets did not do well for the day. Solar names also haven't been doing well. Defense and aerospace, but besides that, a lot of sectors kind of in the middle for the day, right? So what, and you could see here some of the software plays like Coupa Software had a big day today, up 3.8%. AYX had a big day. Twilio, Shopify, which I've been long. ServiceNow, which I got long today. That one we've been seeing repeat call activity, but TTD also in here. For some reason, I don't have team in there. Vive did not participate today, but yeah, I mean this was something that caught my eye last week. I tweeted this one out last night. Talking about how this thing was just retook the 200-day moving average. So I think this is now in the clear, which is why I like to wait till the end of the day to put on swing trades. But it looked like the whole group had momentum, and it certainly did. So I did take a target in ServiceNow today. But what's interesting is the amount of call accumulation that we've been seeing like over the last week going out to February. And these are big trades, right? I mean, look at the price for out the money calls, which are now actually in the money, but this was the 250. And you can see there's 4,600. So that's, a pretty decent size. Now, the 13F filings just came out, and Stan Druckenmiller's fund, it's his biggest net change, like market value change, right? He already had ServiceNow in his portfolio, but this is one of the biggest adds. So again, we don't know how long ago that was. It could be months ago that he added that position, But clearly, if not him buying calls, somebody else has been buying calls too. So I like this name. So that's one of, I've got multiple reasons why I like it for a long. But from the technical standpoint, above 264 for me, as well as the 200-day moving average, it looks like it's turning the corner. The other one, Shop, nice. We put this trade on last week. I was a little bit frustrated with this Thursday and Friday, especially Friday when everything basically when there was much stronger market breadth. It just did not perform. It finished down on the day, but it took out last week's highs. I believe. Where's last week? Right here, right? So I'm on the 1 hour bar. So there's a VPOC up here that I'm kind of targeting. So I what's called rolled my call exposure. If sorry, I'm just reading a text message for football pool. I'm in the running for a football pool. Somebody told me I need to win tonight, but sorry, different different stuff going on. But so what I did was for Shopify. If you look at my trades for the day, and we'll get into today's option activity. Don't worry, there were some some nice trades that went up today. But so what I did was where is my shop trade? Yeah, so I mean that's a lot to carry. 11:30 for next week. So what we see a lot of tape is rolling out of positions, right? So I took profits, paid 770, took profits at 11:30, and then what I did was I still want exposure to this, but by doing this I'm locking the profits up, and now I'm rolling the dice with so to say. I'm rolling the dice with just with the profits, right? Or with just a lesser portion of investment, because I do think there's this 338 1 hour VPOC. Now again, it doesn't have to get there in a straight line, but that's kind of what I'm aiming for, right? A couple other things that we had talked about was Chipotle in the weekend newsletter. One of the watch names that I talked about. This still it came pretty close to taking out the VPOC, but this got off to a really good start in the beginning of the day. Let me start with today's option activity, which when I see something like this go up, when they are going after calls over and over and over, it can make a really good short-term momentum trade, which is basically how I played it today. And this was already, we started to see momentum in this name towards the end of last week, and they were just piling in, all in the morning into January calls. So I took a couple profit targets in this trade. I actually had a little bit of calls on too, besides shares, but I got into this at 10:04. And I was, that's a pretty nice looking trade. I mean, to get $30 from, that's a 10% move. So, really nice move. I have my last piece of this trade on, and I took off of just a few calls that I was trading with as well. So that was a really nice day trade. And I think right now, noticing that market breadth is starting to turn over while the market is still breaking out is really, I think, how I want to be is kind of doing a little bit more day trading, taking that exposure for the most part off at the end of the day. Again, maybe leaving the last piece on for a runner. But I think really that's how I want to trade a little bit. I don't have my last trade of the day, which I added a little bit of protection at the end of the day. Let me just go through the rest of the trades. Johnson & Johnson, this was a nice trade that we set up on Friday. FIS out of my last piece of that one. So again, really, taking more exposure off than adding. There's a couple things that caught my interest. There was some Western Digital calls. There was a lot of interesting trades that went up, which is remarkable considering the run that we're having. But they're still buying. These are February 50 calls. Western Digital has had a pretty ugly turnout since it reported earnings back here. Took out this VPOC before earnings, and it's just been sliding. So I think somebody thinks enough is enough at this point, is my guess. Right, going from $62 down to 49. Also Akamai, which we saw calls on Friday. Remember, Akamai had good earnings. From what I remember, but it was just maybe just a bad market environment, or I think this was when value was we were seeing all these plays into value and growth, not so much. So I took this trade. I took a target and have a little bit left on short-term calls, but I think that one is notable for the day because they keep coming in aggressively for that one. And Akamai, they ended up trading what 20, a little bit over 2,500, and then also the 87 and a half calls. Also, so interesting. It's right at the bottom of value, right? So it's got to get through that resistance. And also, if you look at this on the 1 hour, it also looks constructive as long as it can just push through 89. So I think that's also a notable option flow for the day. What else did I do? I took off all my J&J trade. I thought that was fine for profits because again, I want to be taking off. Work, which we highlighted towards the end of last week. Nice divergence there with the name hitting a 52-week low, and the RSI did not make a new low, right? So there's a nice bullish divergence on this one. So I traded a little bit of calls there. I tried Tillery, that didn't work. LH, this was a nice winner for me last week. It gave back a lot of the profits from Friday. So, just back in a tiny trade for this one. Oh, I don't like how I thought it was doing a little bit better. I had an alert set on the 1 hour above value, but I guess it did not close there. So that's not the best signal there. I would want, so what I was thinking to re-add the position, it would have to make sure that it would stay above value, which is basically 169. It did not do that, so that's not a good add. I also dumped a couple trades at the end of the day. And yes, I did put on a little bit of a hedge. I have an SPX put spread, which I sent out on private Twitter. So again, a little bit of a hedge, and something like that. It's just a $10 wide spread. But if this market continues to charge ahead, I've got some longs on, but I want at this point a little bit of protection. Considering that breadth has really been waning a bit, right? If breadth was continuing to kind of carry this market, but if we're seeing more names declining versus advancing, to me that's a little bit of that's a divergence in an area that I want to take note of. Just to go through the rest of today's option activity, again, Peloton was probably the name of the day for me there. But like I said, there were some other trades that were of interest. PDD will be interesting to see how this name reports. It's a China internet name. Twilio saw some calls today, so this whole group was hot today. Twilio team, some names gave back some of it, but we could go through a couple of these charts. Right, Twilio has been hot, rebounding from the lows. Team, I don't like where team gave back a little bit too much. AYX was another one that was strong but didn't close on the highs, so kind of I think a little bit telling there. Coupa, same thing, did not close back above value. Who knows? May need another day, but if you like Coupa software, 159.80, call it. All right, guys, so we'll leave it there. But again, we're continuing to see that rotation and some other things. I think some of those less trade sensitive areas were the ones that were really interesting. As I mentioned, GDX trying to turn the corner. KL was strong today. It was weak on Friday, but didn't lose any support. So I would keep an eye on that name as well. Probably best looking gold miner, I think, within the group. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.